What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with part 2 of my coverage of the Hakes Lot 237 auction results. Lots of really great items, mainly Return of the Jedi all the way through the Ewoks and Droids line. Some pre-production items. Lots of yak faces sold. It was a yakety yak kind of auction. I think there were 3 different yaks that sold that I pulled up for this video. And this is by no means complete. As always, keep in mind that the prices I'm quoting in this video are after the 18% buyer's premium that Hakes charges to the winning bidder. So let's go ahead and take a look. The first one we've got is a beautiful transition card, 48 back, free Neon Numb offer, R5D4. This one would have been tempting if I hadn't been going after some other stuff, but I'm really trying to hold out for a clear blister Return of the Jedi R5D4, but they're tough to find. They very rarely come up. This one was yellowed, and it was graded AFA 80. Now, I want to preface this by saying that there was an AFA 75 that was clear blister that sold last year on eBay in an auction, and I think the winning bid was around $430. And now I'm looking back at it, I'm like, oh, why didn't I bid on that? I mean, I know it was an AFA 75 versus an AFA 80, but it was a clear blister versus this one that had a yellow blister. Nevertheless, very nice. The blister yellowing kind of blends in nicely with the card art on that one. But look at the final sales price, $973.50. That's over double what the one on eBay that had a clear blister that was an AFA 75 sold for last year. So this one, in my opinion, no offense if you happen to be the person that bought it, in my opinion, this was an overpay. I probably would have been willing to go up to about $500 just because I want one. But you know, I'm really going to try to hold out, and maybe one day the stars will align. I'll actually have some money, and a clear blister Return of the Jedi R5D4 will come up. I doubt it, but that's my hope. But that was an interesting sale there. Next up is a beautiful Made in Mexico 65 back B Yoda. Obviously, it had a clear blister AFA 75. This was made for the U.S. market, but was produced down in the Lily Letty factory in Mexico. And you can see there very clearly, as we talk about all the time in my Mint on Card updates, it's got the Made in Mexico, kind of a matte finish to the back of the card back. And usually they have the hole punch on the back to give a breather for the blister. This one did not have it, which does happen sometimes. Anyway, awfully pretty. You know, obviously this is the Lily Letty Yoda inside, so that has some value already. And it's Mint on Card. AFA 75, this one sold for $11.15, and that's about the going rate, I suppose, for one of these. You know, there's been a couple that sold last year on eBay about the same price, maybe a little higher on eBay, so I think that price was pretty fair. Next up, this was a really nice one. This was a Hollow Cheeks Tusken Raider Mint on Card. Don't see these pop up very much. It was AFA 85, so very high grade, and the yellowing wasn't too bad. Oftentimes when you see this Hollow Cheeks on the Return of the Jedi card, it's heavily yellowed, heavy. And this one's not. This one was fairly light to moderate yellowing, but it's an AFA 85. The value code where Hakes, you know, assigns what they think it's going to sell for was $1,000 to $1,200. I was expecting about $1,500 based on a few of these that have sold on Facebook. This one sold for $1,070. $1,070, that's a pretty good price to me relative to some of the ungraded and graded examples I've seen sell on Facebook. Pretty good value there for an AFA 85 Hollow Cheeks Mint on Card. Does not pop up often. This price really shocked me. This was a 65 back A Emperor's Royal Guard AFA 80 plus clear blister. Very tough to find that, admittedly. This is a very rare item. You'd never, ever see these completely crystal clear like this one. Unpunched, beautiful example. Certainly an eye-catching item, but the price was, I mean, it was a good solid double both what Hakes was expecting and what I was expecting. I was thinking it would sell for about $800 to $900. That was kind of my number. That seems to be the going rate for clear blister Return of the Jedi for popular characters, like a Princess Leia in Bouche disguise, for example. When those are clear blister, those are usually $700, $800, $900 when I see those for sale on Facebook. And, you know, again, they had it $700 to $1,000. It sold for $2,596. So clearly a bidding war broke out. Somebody had to have this one in a clear blister, probably a focus collector or someone who's super picky about having clear blister Return of the Jedis. But that is an insane price. That has to be some sort of whale collector that viewed this as a must-have for his or her collection and did not care about the price, because $2,600 is jaw-dropping to me and way, way above market, in my opinion. But pretty incredible sales price there. And then likewise, you got the exact opposite end of the spectrum was this one, AFA 80 Star Destroyer Commander 65 back B clear blister. Now, it did have some pretty pronounced sticker residue, so some collectors may argue that this is overgraded. The weapon had also come loose and was kind of like ugly inside the tape there, or inside the blister. But somehow it still got the 80 grade with AFA, which seems maybe an overgrade, okay? But still, if you look at that sales price, $356.95 after the buyer's premium, that's a good value. That's a really good value item. And as I talked about in part 1 video, look for these more common items in big auctions where they have rare stuff, because often they'll get overlooked. And I think this is one where if you can live with the defects, right? It's got pretty pronounced sticker residue. It's punched versus unpunched with some obvious wear here. The weapon had come loose from the tape inside the blister, but it was a clear blister and it was high grade. Pretty good value for $357. I would have paid that all day long. Next up was a clear blister 65 back C Han Solo. And we all know how popular these are. I expected this one to go for big money. The value code was $700 to $1,000. That was what Hakes was expecting. I knew it would go above that. I didn't expect it to go for $1,557 though. I thought that was pretty high. But again, there was one that sold on eBay that was ungraded and in pretty pristine condition, exactly the same. It had a price sticker and it was a punched example. It was ungraded, admittedly, so who knows what you get. But I would have guessed it probably would have gotten an 80, and it sold for, I think, between $600 and $700. So you compare that to this one that sold for $1,557. That one on eBay was a really great buy. But anyway, clear blister Hans, it's pretty popular, and it's the alternate image, so a lot of those factors played into it. And obviously with a big eyeball population like you see at Hakes, who've got deep pockets, it's going to command big money. But pretty good item there. But this is probably, in my opinion, this item is a lesson in don't overpay for an item that you can probably find on eBay, ungraded, and then grade it yourself if you're willing to take the grading risk. That's a perfect example of that kind of item, in my opinion, because it was fairly recently. Was it like 2 or 3 months ago, where a clear blister, same card back, I believe, sold for about $600 or $700. You spend $75 to $100 grading it after shipping, and it probably would have come back in 80, and you've got some built-in equity, so to speak. But anyway, next up, this is another pretty incredible item. I could not believe the sales price on this either. This was a 77 back A Luke Farm Boy clear blister AFA 80+. It was punched with a price sticker. I was like, okay, it's punched in with a price sticker. Maybe some of the more OCD collectors might pass this one off, but it is also the alternate image gunner card, and it's clear blister. Probably going to sell for $2,000, right? Somewhere in that ballpark. Well, the value code was $2,000 to $5,000. It sold for $6,814. That is just crazy to me. This is probably on par with the Emperor's Royal Guard in terms of my surprise at the final sales price. I pulled that up this morning when all the auctions were done and closed, and when I saw this one, my jaw just about hit the floor, because no way I would pay that personally. But again, you're dealing with a customer base that's willing to pay the big dollars for items that very rarely have clear blisters and are high grade. So congrats if you can pay that without batting an eye. But to me, that is a drastic overpay. I thought this was a really good buy. This was the made in Spain red snaggletooth, and this one is packed in with the Bespin gun instead of his typical DL44. So this is the Spanish PvP red snaggletooth inside this. These were made for the U.S. market. It says made in Spain, similar to the made in Mexico card backs, kind of a matte finish to the back of the card. All of the Cantina creatures were available in the U.S. that were made in Spain on these card backs. I've got the Greedo with the yellowed blister, AFA 85. But this one had a beautiful crystal clear blister, AFA 80+. The value code was $700 to $1,000. I was expecting about that myself, $700 to $800. It sold for $551. That's a really, really good buy after the buyer's premium, and worth every penny in my book. So, every Hakes auction, I feel like there's going to be deals. They're going to be in the weeds. You got to really kind of dig through it. And as these auctions are ending and that 20-minute countdown is happening for a lot of these items, keep your eyes open, because you can find some really good deals that are being overlooked. This one was not one of them, unfortunately. This is another one that was on my watch list, but it just got too high pretty quickly. And that's the Trilogo Princess Leia AFA 80 Plus. Beautiful example. Would love to have that for my small but growing Trilogo run. And absolutely gorgeous item. Very tough to find. I was going to guess $2,000 for that one, which would have been well outside of what I could afford anyway. It sold for $2,337. Probably worth it, quite honestly. I've seen them ungraded go for $1,500 to $1,800 on Facebook. So to get a really nice high-grade example like that, that's just absolutely immaculate, absolutely stunning. To me, it's worth every penny if you got that kind of money to pay it, because the Trilogo Leias just don't come up often. Chewbacca, I thought this was a great buy. AFA 80 Plus again, sticker, and it was punched, but you know, this one sold for $811. The value code of $400 to $700 I thought was low. Chewbacca's a tough one to find, I feel like. It does have the alternate card image, and does not pop up that much. Does not pop up that much either on Facebook in the Trilogo group or even on eBay. Just not one you see very often. $811, I would have paid that all day long. I probably would have been going up to $900 myself if I if things had worked out the way they did. But there were some even better deals. This is not one of them. This is the yak face. I think this price was fair. I'm just saying in terms of items that are lower on the price scale. This was an unpunched yak face on the Trilogo AFA 75. That one sold for $3,245. Kind of right in line with market and with the value code. I was expecting around $3,000, $2,500 maybe if you're lucky, but $3,245 I think is probably about fair for that. But you know, this one, for example, is another one that I was tracking pretty closely, and I thought this was a great buy. AFA 80 Plus etched corner blister, hard torso Hoth Stormtrooper on the Trilogo. Beautiful card back. Another one that is surprisingly not easy to find. Just does not come up often, and usually when they do, they're pretty beat up on the blister. But this was a beautiful example, and that one sold for $737. I mean, that's a price I'd pay. That's the value code of $400 to $700 I thought was low. But you know, they have specific ranges that Hakes uses. I would have said $700 to $1,000 would have been my mark, and I probably would have been willing, if things had worked out during the auctions, I would have been going up to probably $800 or $900 pretty easily on that. So I think $737 was a great buy on that one. This was another steal of a deal, by the way. This was probably one of the best steals in this item lot that we're looking at. And that's the IG-88 on the Trilogo card. AFA 75, so that probably held the price down a little bit for the very discerning collector that doesn't want to deal with anything below an 80. But let me tell you, IG-88 and the Death Star droid are two droids on the Palatoy or any kind of Trilogo that are very, very tough to find. I mean, extremely difficult. And I've seen an AFA 80 that CIB had at auction on eBay, and it's been over a year now, but that one went for like $1,500. This one sold for half that, $778. Congratulations if you're watching this video and you picked this up. To me, this was the steal of the items I'm talking about in this lot, in this video today. That was an absolute bargain of a price. I would have been willing to go probably almost double that price, $1,200 all day long. To get that for $778, you have got yourself an amazing deal. An amazing deal on a very, very tough to find Trilogo, and congratulations. That is just stunning. A stunning Trilogo, and let me tell you, it's like rare as hen's teeth. It's just very tough to find that one. Next up, we had another Hollow Cheeks. This was AFA 80 with the brand new case style. If you remember from part 1, it was an AFA 85 that sold for about $500. But that one had the old case style. This one had the newer case style, AFA 80. This was on my watch list because it's one I still want, but the timing didn't work out. This auction ended before another item that I was a high bidder on ended. So I couldn't go after this one in good conscience because I didn't want to win both. I couldn't afford both. So I couldn't get this one, but this is definitely one that's on my short list. But $440 for this one after the buyer's premium, I would have paid that all day long. That was a great price, in my opinion, for the Hollow Cheeks AFA 80 loose graded with the brand new case style. This was a pretty incredible item, and I've seen a few of these over the years. This is the off-white plastic first shot prototype C-3PO collector's case. And this is, there's not a lot of these, but they do come up occasionally. And it's a pretty cool prototype kind of carrying case. It hasn't been kind of vac metallized with the shiny gold, and pretty cool item. It was AFA 85 plus too, so Very, very high grade prototype, and it sold for big money, $4,153. That actually came in below the low end of the value code that Hakes had this valued at. 5,000 to 10,000 was the value code. I was expecting kind of 7. That seemed to be kind of the number in the back of my mind as to where I expected this to sell. But you're talking to somebody that doesn't know much about vintage prototypes in terms of prices. I just don't follow them closely enough, mainly because I can't afford them. But this was a pretty incredible item, and I think that was a great buy, for those of you that have those deep pockets. Now we're going to dig into the Canadian Yak Faces mint on card. This was an AFA 80 on the Kenner Canada Power of the Force. This is obviously one of the holy grails for the holy grail for the Power of the Force line. The value code was $10,000 to $20,000. It sold right in the middle there at $17,739. So very expensive item. One of y'all asked me, what do you expect this to go for? I was like, easily $10,000, but probably more like 15. And even my high-end estimate was too low. So $17,739 took that home. And then for those of you that are looking for one, but you're willing to deal with maybe, a lower grade example, this was an AFA 40. It did have the blister support because it is a lower grade and probably a crack right here at the top of the blister. But still mint on card, and it's kind of nice to have one with that really nice seal around the blister so it'll stay in place, hopefully. That one sold for much more reasonable price. That one sold for $4,485, below the low end of the value code there. Again, if you're trying to complete a Power of the Force run and you want to spend 15 grand, this is a really rare option that pops up. One that's got the blister support, that's low enough grade that you might be able to afford it. But $4,000 is a lot of money either way, and I would be terrified that this blister would crack even worse. You can see the crack right there. It would, there's a hole actually at the top of the blister there. So I would be terrified personally that in shipping it would crumble even more. But I would probably do an in-person pickup on that one. But pretty incredible item nevertheless. Size From loose graded 1121 was the sales price on that. AFA 85. Now that didn't include the coin, which is tough to find. The coin was graded AFA 85 plus, and then the figure was AFA 85. And that one came in at 1121. Size From, we talk about him all the time, whether it's mint on card, probably setting you back about $2,500 nowadays in high grade. But loose graded now. This one sold for 1121. So big money on him. And then finally, we're going to finish up with 2 rare prototypes. This was the Ewoks Series 2. So this was never released at retail. This was Chief Chirpa AFA 70, but this is kind of a mock-up, right? It never was released at retail, and this was mocked up with the B-Wing pilot coin, and this is a true prototype figure inside. So very, very rare, and that one sold for $18,821. Big money on a very rare prototype. And then likewise, here's Pat Blue. So pretty cool to see 2 figures that were planned for the Ewoks TV series line that never made it to retail. True prototypes mocked up. This one again was included with the B-Wing pilot coin. So that one sold for about the same price, $18,821. So 2 pretty incredible pre-production items for the Ewoks line, and pretty cool to see those final sales prices. But again, as we talked about, there were some deals to be had in this Hakes auction. You just had to keep your eyes open and kind of managing all of these auctions as they're ending, because after 8 p.m. Central Time, if someone bids again, that 20-minute countdown restarts. And so what happens is you start getting staggered closings as people either stop bidding and that 20-minute countdown ends, or somebody else bids and the 20-minute countdown restarts. And so what happens is I have a bunch of different tabs open, and some of them have ended, others have not. And then I'm really hoping that one, I was hoping to not go home empty-handed, because if everything had not worked out the way it did, I very well could have, because the other items I was interested in all ended before the one where I was the high bidder on ended. But luckily I ended up winning, so I'm sure we'll do an unboxing in the next couple of weeks. And just a great auction. Hats off to Hakes on another really well done job with Lot 237. That's all I really had for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.